The first, third, fifth, and seventh line of code are just comment lines that define what the lines beneath them do. This second line, this portion prompts the user to input the stock price. The stock price is where the inputted value is stored, and the float converts the stock price to the correct notation through floating point number. This fourth line prompts the user to input the number of shares, and that number of shares is input into a string that is converted into an integer, and that value is stored in the number of shares. For line 6, it prompts the user to input the company symbol, and then it's stored underneath the company ticker. Then lines 8 through 10 just print the values that were calculated. For the total values of stock, lines 1, 3, 5, and 7 are comment lines, just again telling you what the line code beneath it is doing. For lines 2, 4, 6, the writing before the equal sign is what that value will be stored under in Python. Then for line 2, it prompts the user to input the stock price, where the value is converted from a string to a floating number. For line 4, it prompts the user to input the stock price in a string, and then it is converted into an integer. Then for line 6, it just calculates, it's an assessment line that calculates the multiplication of the stock price and the number of shares. And then line 8 is what prints out the values of what was calculated in line 6. Lines 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, again, are comment lines, are just telling you what's happening beneath it. Then for lines 2, 4, 6, and 8, again, what's before that equal sign is what your values will be stored under. Line 2 prompts the user to enter the principal amount, and then that amount is converted from a string into a floating point number. For line 4, it prompts the user to input the rate, and that is converted into a percentage through the floating point number. For line 6, it prompts the user to input the time, and that is converted into years through the floating point number. For line 8, it's another assignment line that runs the equation principal times rate times time divided by 100. Then line 10 prints the value that was calculated through this equation. Scroll up. So lines 1, 3, and 5 are comment lines that just tell you what is being calculated underneath. For line 1, it tells you what the fixed exchange rate is, which you see in line 2, where it just assigns the value of the exchange rate of USD to the European euro. For line 4, yes, it prompts the user to input the total amount of US dollars that they have, and then that input is converted through the string theory, through the floating point number, but it's inserted into the string. Then line 6 is another assignment line that multiplies the amount of US dollars that you inputted in line 6 by the fixed exchange rate that you inputted and stored in line 2. Then again, line 8 just prints out the results of what was calculated in line 6. Yes, okay, so lines 1, 3, 5, okay. 7, 9, and 11 are comment lines. Line 2, 4, and 6. Again, what's before that equal sign is what the value will be stored under. Lines 2, 4, and 6 all prompt the user to input the value that is written out right here. And lines 2 and 4, those inputs are converted through the floating point number. For line 8, those years will be converted into years through an integer. Then line 8 is where that calculation happens, where you multiply what you stored as a principal times 1 plus what you stored as the rate times what you stored as the year. And then line 10 just prints out the value that was calculated in line 8. Then the last one is future value of investments. Wait, no, that's wrong. The last one is monthly loan payments. And lines 1, 3, 7, 9, 11, 17, 19 all print out, or all comment lines that just tell you what the equation beneath it is doing. Then lines 2, 4, and 6 all prompt the user to input that text that's printed. Lines 2 and 4, their inputs are converted through the string point number. Line 6, their input is converted into years by the integer. Then line 8, it's a stored value that calculates the monthly rate, which is just that annual rate that you stored up here divided by 100 divided by 12. Then line 10 multiplies the number of years that you stored up here by 12. Lines 11 through 13, these lines are the loan payment formula. This line 14, this else, is a special clause handling that tells Python what equation to use, and so does that if right there in line 11, where if the monthly rate does not equal 0, then we're going to use this. If the monthly rate does equal 0, then you're going to use this equation. Then line 16 is what Python uses in that special case handling, where it divides, where it takes a principal that we stored up here and it divides it by the total number of payments that it calculated in here. Then the last line, line 18, prints the calculated value of whatever equation Python used.